Hi there, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of The Art of the Master. And in this episode, I'm going to help you with something that even I still have trouble with, and that's how to start your campaign. Where do you begin? How do you get your players together? How do you explain why they're together? And exactly how to get things moving. So stick around and I'm going to show you how to start your campaign. Okay, now you think starting your campaign would be easy because, well, shouldn't you have that planned out? Well, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes having the basis for the adventure and having that planned out is easier than actually bringing the party together. How do you bring it together? Do you have everybody role play their parts? Do you just jump right into it? Well, there's a couple different ways you can do it. So, the first way to get going on your campaign is simply, well, it's the usual hand wave. Everyone meets at the tavern. You guys have a few drinks. There's somebody comes in, or you hear about an adventure being posted that you all seem interested in. So collectively as a group, you decide, hey, we'll go on that adventure, and just get going. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I've had games where everybody already decides ahead of time that they already know each other, which is easy for me. So I just plop them wherever they need to be, and we do some dead time in town just for them to get used to role playing out their characters and getting set up, and then adventure happens and off we go. Now you can do that, but what if let's say not everybody knows everybody, or what if you don't know everybody? Sometimes it can be hard to kind of foster that drop in and go kind of ideology. So you could go that way, and sometimes going around the table and introducing everybody can help out. Have them introduce themselves, have them introduce their character, maybe quirks and stuff like that. Or you could easily say everyone's at the tavern, and you, as the dungeon master, you show up as one of the NPCs with this mission, and you're walking around, and maybe you say, you there, you look strong, come with me, I've got a proposition for you. Or you a magic user? Come with me. And this person literally comes in and picks people based on how they look, or perhaps comes up to somebody and says, hey, I've heard about you. I know you're new in town, but someone else told me that you are quick on your feet. You're very dexterous. Why don't you come with me? I got a proposition for you. You know, and just he could come literally handpick these people and say, I brought you together because, I've asked around in town and some people have pointed you guys out, or you look just fairly strong, and, I need somebody for this mission, this adventure. And you could easily do that. And as you're talking as this mission giver, whatever you want to call it, you could easily go around and say, you're all the characters are having drinks, everybody's sitting down, and your NPC could say, so, what's your name again? And put that player on the spot, and he says his name. Oh, where are you from? Really? And get the player to talk about their character by you facilitating it. And then go around the table and ask each player in turn. And then, of course, players might begin to ask your NPC questions, and you can just keep going back and forth. And you can get a lot of RP out of this, and you get quite a bit of mileage, and get some of the players maybe even talking amongst themselves a little bit. Another way to do it, and sometimes I do this when I got nothing else in mind at all, especially if I need to do a one-shot, or I just want to get the ball rolling real quick, especially with a bunch of new people. And of course, this can be kind of tricky with new people, this next technique, because they might not know the mechanics of the game very well, and you kind of have to guide them through. And that is combat. Nothing works better to sew a party together than a conflict. And with players who already know each other, especially if they know the system, you guys can just jump right in and say, and you guys are in town, you guys are in various parts of town, you guys don't know each other, but then town gets raided by goblins or orcs or undead, and you guys all end up fighting, and you could literally roll out a map, put people in different sections of town. They're not anywhere near each other, But you begin combat, you roll initiative for everybody, and you just keep going around the table doing initiative and having them fight whoever they're fighting, and eventually they end up together and they end up fighting together, and they see everybody's skills, and that kind of breeds a little quick camaraderie where they're all sitting there fighting together. Just a reason for you to get them together, really. And also too, the act of combat, once they get a little closer to each other, then they can start, coordinating their attacks and figure out what they're going to do, and it makes them purposely get in there, start working with each other, and start planning, and kind of brings them together as a team, which is kind of nice. Now, if you got a bunch of new people, maybe throwing them right into combat isn't the best thing to do, but if they're particularly low level, well, then that shouldn't be too much of a problem. It should be pretty easy to guide them, because they're not going to have too many extra special abilities and stuff like that to do. It's probably going to be just a lot of swords, some light magic, and that's pretty much it. Of course, nothing says that you couldn't start them out at a higher level, or have a game start out at a higher level because you prefer it, or everybody wants it, or it's just a different style of game that you're doing. So combat is nice and fun to get going. Really gets them into the action. And sometimes even, you could even change it up. It doesn't have to be in town, even though, let's say, your adventure takes place at Baldur's Gate. Who's to say you gotta start them out at Baldur's Gate? Well, that's where the adventure starts. So I'm gonna start them at Baldur's Gate. Nah, why don't you start them on a ship a day or two out at sea on their way to Baldur's Gate, and maybe deep spawn attack the ship in the middle of the cruise, or in the middle of a storm. And then not only do they have to fight the deep spawn, but they have to be careful of the storm itself to make sure they don't get washed overboard while they're fighting the deep spawn. And it's like a mini adventure before the adventure, and that'll really get them going. And then once they get to land, they can go ahead and take a break, take it easy, they can talk to each other, shop around town, and then you can slide them right into the adventure through a tavern or a board posting, anything. And if you don't like doing something, say a ship on the sea, maybe they came by airship. Maybe they came in with a caravan, and the caravan gets waylaid by bandits. So this action just gets them in, gets them going, and again, builds up that camaraderie and gets them used to each other and the game world before you even really get going. Now, another way you could do it is to just straight up dive into the adventure. Especially, a lot of modules already have it laid out. The players meet in a tavern, or someone approaches you, and they just cut to the chase and just get going. And you can do that with your own adventure too. You could easily say, all right, you all come together, you met before, you were strangers previously, you all met in a tavern over casual drinks, and one of you said, hey, there's this maybe local lord or this posting that someone put up for adventurers wanted, and since we're all here talking, well, we'll all go check it out just because, maybe it'll be maybe we'll all decide to do it, or maybe not, or we'll all do this one adventure together, and then we'll all split up after that. Anything, whatever you want to say, and then you can just literally just dive right into the adventure and just start going, and not even worry about building anything up, which is fine. But I like to do a little bit before the main adventure, because then you get a little more opportunities for the players to RP. You get a reason to bring them together a little bit. But again, you don't have to worry too much, because the adventure itself is really, they're going to start bonding. And obviously, you have 3, 4, 5 people at the table, maybe more. And I mean, you all know everybody's here to play the game, so you don't have to worry too much about why the characters get together, because everybody at the table is there to play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever other game you're playing. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But still, it's nice to have that in-world connection, in-world reasoning. Let's see. Now this kind of goes along. This next idea kind of goes along with the whole action combat sequence, and that is the escape. Maybe they're all prisoners somewhere, and they have to find each other and escape. Why would they find each other? Well, one guy gets out of his cell, and maybe all the other players are right there, and they're all only ones in prison. Or maybe they're all in the same cell. Or maybe one guy gets out, and you play with him, you role play with him for a little bit, him breaking out and going on down. Then you cut scene, you go to somebody else, and you role play them breaking out, and you role play somebody else breaking out. Maybe someone's being led back from I don't know, work on the mines or something. Then you play out their scenario a little bit and they manage to break free, or they all kind of come together because of the different paths they're taking. You know, one guy breaks out, he's hiding, another guy breaks out, he's hiding, waiting for the moment to escape. You know, a couple other players are being brought back from a rock quarry where maybe they've been doing some hard labor and they've been coming back, and those two players decide it's time for us to try to escape, and the other two players who are independently out there hiding, waiting for a moment to escape, see these other two players try to fight off their attackers, and they join the fray. Then all four of them, let's say, can go and flee as well, and maybe a fifth or a sixth sees them revolt against their captors and joins in, so all the players escape. And you could easily make it just one small simple escape, and maybe they escape bandits or some other evil denizens of the world, or maybe it could be a really big deal. Maybe they're deep underground, or they're in a large dungeon of a mad king, who knows? Any number of reasons, and they could be there on legitimate charges, or maybe they're trumped up charges. Who knows? And maybe that's part of the mystery. Maybe they all wake up there, and I'm not a big Amnesia fan, but you say, well, you all wake up and you've been imprisoned and you're not sure why. But for me, I'd let them figure out pretty quick, get them off the hook pretty quick, so they're not worried about not remembering why they're there. And I wouldn't have them forget a lot of extra stuff. Again, I'm not a big Amnesia fan. It's kind of fun, it's kind of cool. I hear a lot of people like to do it. I'm not super crazy about Amnesia. Now, in stuff like this, in this beginning part, I wouldn't mind laying it down. I don't remember, but as we play that evening, by the end of the evening, my players would know or should know why they were imprisoned. The next thing is you could do maybe a natural disaster, and this is the last thing I'm going to look at in this video. And natural disaster is kind of falls back on that whole combat action idea, where you just kind of drop them right in and get the ball rolling. You know, you're there, you're hanging out at Neverwinter, and Hot Now erupts, and it's just spewing ash and smoke, and it's lobbing giant lava bombs everywhere, and the players are running around. They may not even know each other, and let's say a lava bomb hits right next to somebody. It creates this crater, it breaks the ground, makes a little sinkhole right there. A player goes to fall in, he's hanging off the edge, and you can just hand wave that and say, this is just what happens. And the player's stuck there, and he can't get up without the assistance of somebody else. Somebody else sees him and helps him up. Two players are together automatically right there. They could run around, help a lot of other NPCs, and by helping the NPCs, maybe you can dispense some magic items, like the shopkeep. Oh, thank you very much for saving me. You know, you can, here's a couple items that I think you might need. Go see if you can help other people. You know, maybe gives them a bag of holding or something. You know, you think, is that too much at the beginning of the game? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. I like to hand out magic items, and sometimes I don't. Depends on my adventure. Depends on what I'm looking for. And honestly, there's nothing I can give the players that's really going to imbalance the game too terribly, because again, I am the master of my world. The GM giveth and taketh away, if need be. But anyways, a natural disaster where everybody comes together for the common good, that's pretty cool too, especially against something that really can't be defeated so much. Something like an erupting volcano, or a flood, or maybe even a hurricane, powerful series of tornadoes. And maybe these things are being created by something evil, something hidden deep beneath the ground, or out of an ancient fortress on a mountaintop somewhere. Check it out. You know, maybe that's why this has happened. Or maybe this natural disaster happens, things settle down over the next week, things calm down, the players get an adventure, or get asked to go on an adventure because maybe they're recognized by the local lord or a prominent merchant, and like, wow, you guys are pretty good, you really showed the kind of metal you're made out of, so why don't you come do this for me and I'll reward you greatly. And they go do this, whatever it is, come back, and they're rewarded, of course. And then maybe after that adventure, someone says, hey, you know, we're a little concerned, we're part of the Mages Guild, and we're concerned about that natural disaster. We don't believe it was so natural. So we want you to go to maybe the abandoned fortress on the mountaintop that's nearby, or this underground dungeon that a wizard's tower used to sit above, and we want you to go check it out and make sure that our suspicions are not correct, that maybe there's something else lurking here that could have created that natural disaster. So there's a lot of different ideas. to really kind of get you going on how to get your campaign started. Some of them seem kind of simplistic, I suppose, but sometimes I got to tell you, even as many games as I've played, even with the people that I know really well, sometimes for me, getting started can still sometimes be kind of a hard thing to do. And it's just kind of nice to hear somebody else's ideas and try and start figuring out early how you might want to start out the group. And quite frankly, no matter how I have my adventure set up, any of these things I could insert right in front of any adventure. Anything. Especially even a canned module. So you take a module, there's no reason why you couldn't have a natural disaster right in the front of it, have things simmer down, and then you go into the main of the adventure. Does the natural disaster have to hook up to it? Not at all. But in something like Princes of the Apocalypse, the 5th edition module for D&D, then a natural disaster would fit in just right. Or let's see, like an escape. An escape, actually, in was Out of the Abyss, the players actually start, if I'm not mistaken, they actually start trying to escape ahead of time, or at least they come to a point very quickly or very early on in the module where they have to help others escape as well as themselves. So again, no problem there. Having any kind of action, any kind of combat before the adventure starts could easily lead in to and be connected to anything in that module, anything in that adventure. And of course, as always, there's no reason why the players just can't be sitting at a tavern together and being like, hey, I see you throw knives very well at that board. I challenge you. And, you spend half the night, guys challenging each other with throwing knives and trading some gold, drinking some ale, and then a bunch of bandits come in like, we're going to steal everything in here. And the player's like, oh, no, you ain't. And they're going to fight the bandits with a mug of ale in one hand and the weapon in the other. And it's just going to go that way. So, again, however you choose to do it, I don't think you can really get it wrong. But I got to tell you, hopefully this video is going to help you out. And take your time. Take your time. Think about how you want to start it out. Quite frankly, at the end of the day, you're just playing games with your friends, so you really can't get it wrong. And no one's going to fault you for it if there's a little hiccup here and there. So just press on and you'll be just fine. But definitely think about these ideas. Think about how you're going to start your adventure, and that can really help you later on. Remember, at the end of the day, you really can't get it wrong. You're sitting down playing your favorite game with your friends. So don't stress too much about it. Hopefully this episode has helped you a little bit and showed you some different things that you can do to start your campaign. And also, these are some things that you can do not just at the beginning of your campaign, but if you need something to kind of, I guess, shake the players up a little bit, you can do anytime during your campaign. An action sequence always gets the blood pumping and gets their gears turning, especially if it's some kind of natural disaster or a daring escape. I mean, who doesn't like that kind of stuff anyways? So, anyways, hopefully you found this episode of The Art of the Master insightful and helpful to you. And again, I'm David Hunt, owner of GameMasters Guild, telling you to stay safe, play great games, and I'll see you real soon.